right. Well, here's a question for you. If you are a dog parent or you have a dog in your life, do you know if the dog feels guilt? Does the dog dream? Does the dog love you? These are the types of questions that keep me up at night. Good thing for us, our next guest will have lots of answers for us. Her name is Vanessa Woods. She's a New York Times best-selling author of The Genius of Dogs. She's a researcher, a journalist. She's also the director of Duke Puppy Kindergarten. I only wish it was around the corner from our studio because I have a feeling you'd have everyone's dog in that kindergarten. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to start off right away and just say, how on earth do you study dog cognition?
Well, it's actually really easy. We study dogs just like we study young children. So you can see Sassy in the background here. She's one of our subjects at the Duke Puppy Kindergarten. And what we're looking at is a lot of things: how dogs think, how they navigate the world, and also sort of debunking this myth of survival of the fittest, because, you know, sadly, wolves are endangered everywhere they're found, but dogs are just one of the most successful mammals on the planet besides us.
I'm fascinated by all of this. So in your book, you have some questions that I think are pertinent to all of us. By the way, I should say off camera, I'm a new dog stepmom, and his name is Nico, and he's a Staffy, and he's crazy. And he is ignoring me the entire morning, but I think it might be because he is cold. So my question is, one of the questions, which I believe you address in the book, is, do dogs ignore us? Do they get like pissed off at us and ignore us? Like Nico is doing to me right now because he knows I'm talking about him?
Well, I mean, sometimes you're busy doing other things. Like, where's Sassy? Sassy, come here. Stop ignoring us. Come this way. So we have this really special relationship with dogs. And, oh, here she is. We have this really special relationship with dogs,
gosh.
And, you know, they are so wonderful in the way they pay attention to us. They can read our gestures. Do they get mad at us sometimes? I don't know. Maybe there's something is more interesting over there in the corner. Sassy was just very much interesting in what was under my desk. So I don't think so. Dogs are built to love us. Don't you think so, Sassy?
I agree, but I wonder, you know, do they pretend like they can't hear us? Like, I come to realize that dogs don't necessarily know their name, but they associate a certain intonation in our voice and say, oh, she's talking to me. How do you, as someone who studies dog, what is the answer for, like, how do you know that they can or cannot hear us? You know, what is the response that we're looking for?
They can definitely have selective hearing, just like children can, I think. I'm sure dogs know their names. There was a dog called Chaser that we knew, who knew over 1,000 words. So I think they're much smarter than we give them credit for. But yes, do they sort of sometimes hear us calling them or hear us say no and say, you know what, I'm just going to pretend that I don't hear you. I think that's definitely something they're capable of.
In your research and in your understanding of dogs, what is the process that you go through to get to these conclusions that you've made? Because I can tell you, I probably, for all the dog parents or people who have dogs in their lives, everyone has sort of their own idea of what their ideal dog is. So what is it that you do specifically to come to this understanding? I assume you observe and interact with dogs for hours and hours on end.
Hours. Sassy and I were just interacting for hours and hours. And the way we study someone who can't really talk, like a puppy, is that we just treat them like we would children before they could talk. So we ask them to make choices, and in those choices, we sort of gain an understanding of what they're thinking. So, you know, are you, if I hide something and then try and tell you where it is, do you understand my gestures, even though I'm not using language? You know, how do you feel about an umbrella opening really suddenly? Like, does that make you afraid? Are you perfectly comfortable with that? I will say that Sassy this morning did so well on her physics exam. What we do is we hide physics. I know she passed. She was the highest scoring puppy this week. We hid a bowl with some food in her under this cloth, and she had to know that even though she couldn't see the bowl anymore, it was still there. And young children and various puppies, they have problems with this sometimes. But Sassy was like amazing. She's like a genius. right here.
You know,
And I must
Vanessa,
say,
I should have started off with a dog before 2 human children. Vanessa, I want to bring in the rest of the gang because many of us have dogs and we have some questions. I can tell you right now, I know Bella would do very well at the Duke Puppy Kindergarten.
I think so too.
Yeah, Bella's
She may or may
smart.
not love you, Dan.
Bella's she does love it. She's very smart, but I have a question. Do dogs, so you know, if you come home and you find that your dog tore up a pillow, right? But they could have torn it up like 8 hours prior, and you come in and you see that pillow on the floor and you're like, what did you do? Do they know that you're referring to what they did earlier in the day?
No, and that big old guilty look they're giving you doesn't mean anything. Our friend Alexandra Horowitz, she did a really great study on whether dogs feel guilty, and they don't. They just
Really?
respond
So what's
to
with the
your
tail
voice.
between the legs?
In that little face.
Yeah, that's pointed to
Yeah.
your voice. You walk in and you see that pillow. I mean, what dogs are very good at doing is reading your body language, reading your expression, and in some cases, really mind reading. They, they understand that in some cases that you're mad, and they understand in some cases that you're trying to help them. So, I mean, dogs are just these wonderful animals, and I'm sorry about your pillow, but you shouldn't.
That's okay.
Got a home goods. Your dog is good at physics.
All right.
My dog is
Vanessa
not good at
Woods.
physics
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
He's good
I
at
can't even
pooping.
believe that. Well, Vanessa Woods, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we look forward to more research that you do and sharing it with all of us.
It was my
dog lovers
pleasure. Thanks for
alike.
having me on the show.
Good
I'm
still
still gonna, no
Absolutely.
pillows.
No pillows, you're done, huh?